Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today with Casey Wilt. We'll be talking about kind of the inside look or behind the scenes of how to manage indirect fees within the platform. So he's got some good tips and tricks for you. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping announcements. All attendees are on mute. If you have a question throughout the presentation, please use the webinar panel. There's a question box to submit those, and we'll address as many as we can throughout the duration of the call. We'd be remiss if we did not mention we've got Pre-Con World coming up. So it's October, the 15th will be a welcome reception. The program is the 16th and 17th. It's here local in the DFW area at Lowe's Arlington Hotel, which is an amazing place, amazing pool. Would love to have you. There's still just a few seats open. So if you're interested in registering, you can use BT Webinar 2024 as the promo code to get 20% off registration. And so you can find that through the link here or go to becktechnology.com, drop down company, and you'll see Pre-Con World in the navigation menu. And with that, Casey, I think we're ready to go. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Sounds good. All right, I don't have the share command yet. Here we go. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Casey Wilt. I'm a senior sales engineer here at Beck Technology. I've been at Beck Technology for going on 9 years now and spent 8 of those years on the implementation side of the business. So seeing contractors onboard this tool into their organization all across the country, which definitely gives a lot of insight into how unique the dance of indirect fees can be specific to your organization. Before we start diving into indirect costs and different workflows that can be supported in the tool, I have kind of a couple of baseline definition thoughts. First, terminology-wise, in Estimator, the costs in the estimate view are your direct costs or above the line, kind of industry standard terminology. Anything that is calculated against the direct costs, we would consider an indirect or below the line. And technically, they're created in our fee table, even if it's not just your overhead and profit fee. The other thing to keep in mind is that when it comes to your fee table, it's a critical part of any estimate template. And it's actually the catalyst for most groups making their first kind of organically homegrown created templates post-implementation. You know, a public job, a P3 job, and a private job are going to have different funding structures and different fee requirements, let alone what the impact of a different market sector might bring. So it is totally normal and can be significant time savings and risk reduction to have standardized fee tables for different market sectors, different funding structures as part of your estimate template library. I've got a sample project here open. That is about a $14.5 million project. And we'll look through a series of fees that are kind of examples of things and approaches that I've seen over the years. Opening the fee editor, we'll bring up the actual fee lines themselves. We'll walk through these one by one and talk about some of the workflows that are in use. First of all, we've got GCGRs in a scenario where I have not estimated my full general conditions, general requirements, but I just want them to be, an early conceptual job where it's just a % of my construction costs. That's kind of what this is representing. It is a % type. The cost basis, we get to choose what the fee runs against. Within the general section, the most common are the direct, distributed direct, or the total cost. In this case, I'm just running against 2% of that $14.5 million direct cost you can see at the top. The next fee line is a bond type from the dropdown, payment and performance bond, any other bonding, anything kind of step driven, even potentially permits if the scenario fits. When you choose a bond type within the amount field, you're going to get just a basic percentage number until you pull up the calculator. And this is where that percent's really being driven from. The first thing you can do is you can choose the cost basis. I have my P&P bond running on the total cost of the project, signifying that it is fully circular, right? Total cost, that's kind of that iterative calculation that always causes formula problems in the world of Excel, but that's fully supported inside of the table. So fee on fee, fee on fee on fee, going circular, you can get really creative. Within the bond, the first thing you do is set up your steps. So you can see here the first 500,000, I wanted a clean 15,000 for that first step. I just backed into the percentage in between. Then I said for the next 1.5 million, between 500,000 and 1.5 and 2 million, use this percentage. For the next 8 million, really up to 10, I'm going to use 1.5%, and anything kind of as that resulting number, just the sum of all the steps. The percentage basis is 1.35%. Within additional premiums, you'll see the initial premium amount from your straight steps. Then you can put in a project threshold and the actual construction duration, and the premium if the project duration runs over what the underwriters gave you. So from the 255, we add an additional 15,000 to the total to bring us to the 270,000 you see on the side. The next fee line is sales tax. It's a percent of a different type of cost basis. In this case, the material cost category. You can use any of the 5. So this is saying all material costs in my project are subject to the 8.25% sales tax here in Texas. The next line is labor burden. This is a really common fee for groups that are self-performing work or are using crews to define their labor costs throughout the rest of the project. So 40% of labor, I would like to distribute that, right? This is my opportunity to see billable versus actual, kind of at the click of a button. With distribution, that's our word for allocation, spreading, distributing. If you check the box, it goes on the whole project, or you can hit the 3 dots and choose, does it go onto all labor costs on the whole project, or does it fall into a specific WBS range? In this case, I'm just throwing it on labor. A running total shows me how far I am into the project. In the insurances section, these are running against subtotal A. So that shows that fees can run against these total rows as well as another type of cost basis. This is 1%, you can see the math. Liability insurance showcases the per value fee type. So this is kind of a unique way of thinking about a percentage. I've seen groups in the past that would get information from their insurance provider that would just give you kind of a strange fraction, $7.25 per $6,200, right? Who wants to back into that 5 decimal place percentage? You can simply hit the pencil or the dollar sign and type in the fraction, $7.25 per $5,000 of construction volume. Excess liability is something that's in place in my template by default. I am not using it here, right? It's off by default, but just with a click of a button, I can bring that fee to bear on this project. The contingency section is set up in a similar fashion, a couple of lump sums. If I want them, turn them on. If I don't, they do not contribute to the cost of the project. The concrete contingency showcases one of my favorite types of fees in the table because of the flexibility it offers, which in this case is the custom fee type. So what this does is it gives you a calculator within the amount field, and you can set the criteria. I would like this percent of these cost categories for line items within the following WBS property ranges. In this example, this is a master format level 1 equals division 3. Makes sense, right? I called it a concrete contingency. The scenario here, as I envision it, is I'm in a new market. I don't know these subs, or the drawings are half-baked, or there's some unknowns in the project. We're just not comfortable and we want a running 10%. But I want that to be captured in the cost of work. So beyond setting up the rules, I can distribute into the same range. All the cost categories within master format level 1 equals division 3. Fees that are distributed do not show in a deliverable. So they are sort of calculated here. The money is spread. We're not accounting for it twice. So a distributed fee does not show on a deliverable. One thing to note, when you have fees that are distributed, you now have a couple of different cost bases that you have created. You have your direct cost, which is straight from the estimate view, and you have distributed direct. This 4.96 million is direct cost plus 390,000 plus 75,000. So just about $500,000. And that is something that I could set other fees to run against. So the GCGRs ran against distributed direct. It takes it to almost 300,000. And now we're kind of getting in a whole new type of circular logic. Just depends on the scenario you're trying to capture for your specific estimate. The last line, overhead and profit, 4% of that final number. So we get up to $17.1 million total cost. In this specific estimate, the one thing I want to showcase is how you can see the impact of distribution before running your report. So if I jump into the estimate view, you can see here that I have pulled out a couple of extra columns. In this case, I've pulled out burdened unit cost and burdened total cost. In the column chooser, you have burdened columns, which is our word for has received distribution impact, for all of the 5 cost categories, unit cost and total. You can see here that when I distributed my 40% labor burden, these items are all labor. 5,200 unit cost to 7,200 is a 40% increase. If I was to filter to division 3, which had a 10% contingency distributed, 75-cent unit cost for material goes to 83 cents. So that's the impact of distribution within the estimate itself. So that's kind of the core workflows and a lot of the common examples that you'll see in Estimator today. What I did want to give is a little bit of a preview of a couple of new fee types that are coming in an upcoming release of DESTINI Estimator. And for that, I'm going to jump over to another copy of this estimate, same estimate scopes, but a very different fee table. And these are pretty quick to take a look at. So I have costs here in building 1, building 2, and site work. In the fee table for this project, I'm actually approaching this a little bit different. In this scenario, I want the same fees applied to each building, but I want different percentages. There are phases of construction, it's different funding sources, whatever the scenario might entail. In this top section, you can see building 1 GCs is a custom fee, and it's 3% of building 1. Same thing for insurance. Now, this last fee introduces a new cost basis called compounding. What compounding does is it takes the amount of fee above 65,000, 131,000 plus the direct cost that contributed to those. In this case, we'll see down here, it's 4.399 million of direct costs for building 1, and then it takes 2.8% of that. So it's fee on top of the fees above it, inclusive of the direct cost. So kind of a cool new calculation that's available to you. The other new piece is down below, building 1 total. Instead of a running total, it's a subtotal, meaning it's giving me all the fees in the section above, plus the direct costs that contribute to those fees. So 4.7, notice the next one's 7.6, and the last one's 3.2. Those are no longer running totals. Those are now really building totals. And we can check that math, 4.7, 7.6, 3.2. Building 1 is 4.7 million total cost, building 2 is 7.6, and site work is 3.2. So that's kind of a little bit of a sneak peek of kind of what's coming and an update here to the fee table shortly. And that is the look through indirects this morning. Thank you for your time.